Hello everyone, welcome to tonight's training. We are going to talk all about self-sabotage tonight. What is self-sabotage, why it happens, and how do we stop it? So if you don't know me, my name is Ashley Perl. I am a certified trauma-informed somatic healing coach. I work with women on overcoming anxiety and self-sabotaging patterns and a myriad of other things through really working with the soma, the body, to get to the root of what's causing these undesirable behaviors and feelings in our lives. And so today I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I feel like self-sabotage is something that everyone can relate to in some way, shape, or form. And it's something that I believe there's a really big misconception around. And it's that exact misconception that I want to debunk tonight. So let's get started. Let's jump in. Let me know where you're joining from. You can share in the comments section. If you resonate with anything, I would love to hear that as well. So let's start with what self-sabotage even is. So self-sabotage, and you might have your own relationship to this word, but it's really when our actions and our behaviors don't align with our goals or our desires or our intentions. So essentially, we undermine ourselves in some way and we act in a way that really impedes on our happiness. It impedes on our progress, on our goals. It really impedes on our life as a whole. And it can really happen in any area of life. So you can sabotage in your career or your relationships, either your, personal relationships with your loved ones or even your relationship to yourself. You can experience this with finances, friendships, self-love, care, all of the things, okay? And so I'm gonna give a few primary examples of how and when this might show up, but know that whatever's coming up for you, if it's coming up, it's likely because some of this might be going on. So let's start with health goals, because this is one that's really prevalent in our society today. Say you have this desire to just feel really good, feel energized and vibrant in your body, and you desire to eat healthy and exercise consistently, but then you don't really do what you say you'll do. So you make these promises to yourself and then you end up just breaking them over and over again. And perhaps you're really great when you're initially setting these goals and you start out with so much enthusiasm, and then maybe a few days or weeks or months go by and you realize, oh my gosh, I totally dropped off on that goal that I had. So somewhere down the line, you perhaps subconsciously sabotaged your efforts. So that's one example. Maybe you resonate. The next is with finance goals. Perhaps you really want to save money to buy a house or start a family, and you have all the good intentions around this. But then at some point you realize you have been spending all your money going out to fancy dinners or buying all the things on Amazon or something else, and you're not actually making any progress towards that goal. And then lastly, and this one's a little bit more covert, where we sabotage in our relationships. So perhaps you desire to be in a long-term loving relationship, but then you find yourself always alone and single. Perhaps you notice that you pick fights a lot, get in arguments, or even draw in people into a relationship with you that just aren't really a good fit, and you end up single and alone. So these are just a few examples, but by no means is this an exhaustive list. Just want to get you thinking about areas in your life that maybe you aren't seeing progress on, and maybe it's actually these self-sabotaging patterns that are causing it. Okay? And remember, I always say this, be very compassionate and kind with yourself as you are exploring this and anything that I talk about in here. Okay? So at first glance or at first thought on this, you might think, okay, if I have a goal, then of course I'm going to do anything in my power to achieve it. And if it's not happening, then this must mean that I don't have enough willpower. Or I'm too weak, I'm too broken, it's not meant for me. Whatever these stories that we tell ourselves, okay, if you're nodding your head like, yeah, I've said this before, it's totally normal. And I'm here to tell you that that way of thinking is actually what keeps us stuck in these vicious cycles. It's that thought that we don't have enough willpower, or it's all the negative self-talk and the shame that's so prevalent in our world today that's actually keeping us stuck in these cycles. And so I share this, and I'm going to share what we can do about it here in a moment, to just invite you to try on the belief that if you take a different approach, you might see a different result, which is ultimately what we want and why we're here, right? So let's move into why self-sabotage actually happens if it's not because you don't have enough willpower. And I'm curious if this is new information for you, or if that's something that you haven't heard before. Let me know. I'd really love to hear that. So contrary to the common, belief that we have complete control over everything that we do and our behaviors, all of our behaviors are actually driven by, 90% of our behaviors are actually driven by our subconscious, meaning out of our conscious awareness, meaning habitual, repetitive, especially those patterns that we've had for years and years and years and years, okay? And when I say subconscious, I mean the body, because our subconscious patterning is actually driven by the beliefs that we hold, by the understanding of the world, the meaning that we made of the world when we were young, and that all exists in your body. Okay, which will be very important, especially if you know of somatic work and using body-based exploration and modalities to really help create sustainable change. This is why that works. This is exactly why, okay? And this is where so many people get stuck, because they think that it's them. They think that, they're the problem, that they just need to get more willpower and white knuckle their way through these things, and then they'll be able to feel healthy. Then they'll be able to, get the promotion at work. Then they'll be able to maybe see the relationship that they want. And that's just not really the case. And so I created a little visual here to help us. We'll see if it comes out the right way on this. I think that's backwards, but basically what this is supposed to say, if you start up at the top, it's how essentially our behaviors in life, our actions are created. It all starts with, at the top, our beliefs. And that's kind of hard to read, so I'm going to put that down. Our beliefs that we hold within our bodies create the thoughts that we think, create the feelings that we feel, which ultimately create our actions and behaviors. Think about how you feel and how your day goes when you got out of bed and you had time to do whatever it is. Maybe you just woke up on the right side of the bed feeling great. How does your day go then versus when you wake up and immediately you stub your toe and you're not feeling great, and that energy in your body, it actually creates more of that in your day. And so the same thing kind of goes with everything we're talking about here with self-sabotage. So if we're trying to create a new behavior that we've been doing for a long time, be it, eating a certain way, exercising or not exercising at all, be it the way that we show up in relationships, whatever it is, okay? But we have a deep-rooted belief held in our bodies that conflicts with what we're trying to do in the world. It's the belief that's always going to win. It's the belief that's always going to win. And that is because everything we see in our reality, everything that we experience, is a direct reflection of what's happening internally. And what's interesting about that and the body is that our body loves familiarity. It loves consistency. So it's going to try. It's like its purpose is to keep you safe and try to stay consistent. And so if you're trying to do something that's a little bit different than your normal way of doing things, of course it's going to be hard. Of course it's going to be like, turning around the Titanic, and it's going to take time to kind of build new ways of being. But it definitely is not something that we can just willpower our way through, okay? So another way to put it is that self-sabotage happens when we essentially have conflicting parts within ourselves. And so I'll give some examples again. I shared some at the beginning, but let's say you do have these health and wellness goals, and you keep sabotaging your efforts to eat healthy or exercise or show up for your breath work or meditation practices, whatever it is, there might really be a core need inside of you, that a core part of you that's wired to need the food, to need the numbing with Netflix, to need all of those things in order to feel safe. So there's conflict there. And that doesn't mean that change is not possible for you, because it absolutely is. It just means that rather than trying to focus on changing the behavior, you have to go down into the body, right? Go down that list that I shared and actually get to the root cause. Okay? Actually get to the root cause. And this is something that you might be able to do on your own. This is something that might be supportive to do in partnership with a professional, so that you can really explore, like, what deep-rooted beliefs do you have in your body. And in a couple moments here, I'm actually going to guide you through practice where you can maybe explore this on your own. Okay? So that's just one example of conflicting beliefs. I'll just give one more just to, really hone it in here. Let's say your goal in life is to get married and have kids, and this is something you really, really desire. That's one part of you really, really wants this. But then there's another part of you that maybe grew up seeing your parents and other people in your life get divorced, and there's so much hurt and pain there that your body is just trying to protect you from feeling that pain again. And it associates marriage with pain and hurt. And it's just trying to prevent that for you. What that might show up as in your reality is you unconsciously or subconsciously showing up in relationships in ways that just, keep breaking it off, or creating rifts in your relationships, and ultimately you not getting married or finding that partner. Okay? So those are just a couple examples. And what it comes down to is having conflicting needs and having conflicting beliefs in the body. And essentially, those things override the mind's desire or the behavior changes that you're trying. Okay? And so this is really helpful, because once you figure out what the needs are, and once you figure out what the beliefs are that get to be rewired in your system, you can work on that aspect. And that aspect is what's going to be sustainable. That aspect is what's going to create the lasting change, not the change that you willpower your way through and white knuckle your way through, that ultimately you end up sabotaging. So let me know if this is making sense, okay? And the reason why I share this is because this is why working with what's deep-rooted in your subconscious, what's deep-rooted in your body, is the fastest way to change. Often it's this big misconception that, no, I gotta create strict rules, or I have to, work really hard. And yes, there's work involved, but it's not the way that most people think, okay? And so we've talked about why this happens. We've talked about what self-sabotage is. Hopefully it's clear to you now that it isn't just willpower, and hopefully you're finding some, self-love and compassion as we're having this conversation here. Now, I want to share with you what can we do about it? And so this is one that you'll likely want to save, because I'm going to go through the 3 steps, or the 3 C's, because I love alliteration. It helps me remember, so hopefully it helps you remember as well. And maybe you want to grab a sheet of paper, or write these down so that you can work through these steps. As I'm sharing these 3 steps, I invite you to pick one thing that you are not making progress on in your life that you would like to, and see, maybe working through these steps might help you, okay? So, number 1, our first C is compassion. And I've shared this so much because it truly is so important that if we're wanting to change, if we try to hate or shame or judge our way into changing, negative self-talk until we maybe finally get it right, it's just not sustainable. Think about how a child reacts when you talk to him or her or them with such force and anger. It might not really do anything. But if you just approach them in a nice way, with calmness, with compassion, with understanding, with love, then you might see some change. And the same goes for how you treat yourself. So having kindness and compassion as you go through this, and if you need a way to kind of build this, because unfortunately most of the world, we're just so hard on ourselves, it helps to remember that all of your patterns, especially the ones that are the things you struggle with the most in adulthood, those patterns are likely created from things that happened or the way you were wired in your childhood when you didn't know any better, or when maybe your caretakers didn't know how to support you better, okay? The beliefs you made about the world and yourself. So be really happy and grateful and excited that as an adult, you're here, you're showing up for this work and you're wanting to make a change, and that really gets to be celebrated, okay? So that's C number one. C number two, there's two C's with number two, is curiosity. Become curious about what parts within you are conflicting. That's the other C. So I'm going to go through a list of some questions here, and this is what I invite you to write down and really work these, go through these, and really get curious, because I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of information that comes from these ones. So, question number one. When you think of the thing that you're trying to accomplish, maybe it's having the healthy relationship, getting a job promotion, being just healthier in your life, whatever it is, what part of you really wants this? What part of you really wants it? And then next, is there another part of you that might benefit from not achieving it? And this one can be kind of confusing, so I'll give an example. If you are someone who is always, if you have always, let's say, numbed with Netflix, or and you want to spend more time doing work and not procrastinating, right? Is there any part of you that really benefits from watching so much Netflix, or really benefits from, numbing? And what might be the need there? Maybe it's safety. Maybe it's just having connection, right? Maybe there's like a loneliness piece there. So you get to get curious around that. And then, is there any part of you that fears this outcome? Is there any part of you that fears the outcome? So I invite you to get curious around those, and that might really help you figure out what the motivation for the sabotage is. And if you're not finding it, it's likely because it's really, really, really deep rooted. And this might take working with your subconscious, so partnering with a somatic coach, somatic therapist, any professional that can really help you not just talk things out on the mental level, but getting down into the body, to the root. I'll share my link in the comments if you feel like working together would be supportive, but anybody who supports you in really getting clear on the mind-body connection can support you in this. And then the third and final C is change. So this is actually where the work gets to be done, not on the behaviors, like I said earlier, but actually on the beliefs and the needs, and really a lot of that inner child work that gets to be done internally, okay? It's not the external behaviors, it's the internal work. So changing, shifting those deep-rooted beliefs that you hold inside of you to be in support of where you're wanting to go and those changes you're trying to make. Starting to notice, become aware of when these like old non-supportive narratives are coming online, coming into play. Working with your nervous system, because a lot of this stuff, you guys, is just the way your nervous system was wired. Being wired for chaos, being wired for disappointment, being wired for whatever it is, and learning to shift within you. So that change work just gets to come from within. And the more you can reinforce the beliefs that you want, the beliefs that you want that are supportive of the changes you're trying to make, right? Perhaps it's that you're worthy of love, that you're worthy of being in a healthy body size, that you're worthy of being the CEO of your company, whatever it is. Working with the beliefs, working with the inner work is going to create the changes in your reality much more sustainably, much more long lasting, probably quicker than just trying to force it. Yeah, that's really it. I hope that this was helpful. I will see you on our next training. I'll follow up because I don't remember off the top of my head when that is. And please let me know if that was supportive. If you feel like you want to work with a professional, know that there are so many on the OKclarity site. I am still taking new clients and would be so honored to partner with you and support you on your journey. And if you have any questions or just want to say hi, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Ashley Perl, Perl. I'm tagged on the OKclarity space as well. And I will see you next time. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.